it's about 25 years since I joined Custodian. Yeah, very early visit to Custodian. Yes, went to a seminar in Melbourne and was most impressed. And so we rang them the next week and we were up here buying all our property. I was looking around for some ways of earning money because our retirement was looming, and my husband had done very little about retirement because he was never going to retire. After going to John's seminar, I could see the potential for building something at my age, which was 55, I think, so I was a very late starter. No, because I really felt that they held our hand. In those days, you used to have a couple of people come and visit you at home. I had two lovely fellas come out and explain what the whole concept was. John's philosophy, once one goes up, you get the next one, and I ended up with 13 before we retired, which is what I'd aimed for. The thing that John's really taught me, and I was just saying that to him, is goal setting. I set goals every 3 months, and I have since I met him. I just think goal setting is really valuable and the way to go. I got to a certain point with Custodian where I wasn't allowed to borrow any more money, and so the way to cope with that is to go and get a couple of properties that are income producing, which I did. The bank will lend you money because you've got more income coming in. But what I did was renovate those 2 properties, and that was the end. I rang John and I said, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I love renovating. And he said, Margaret, you've got to do what you love. As John says, you've got to repeat what works, and that works for me. But I'd have never been able to do it without starting with, income from the properties that I had with John, without a doubt. Well, I was just working for myself. I hadn't put any money away. That's the worst thing when you run your own business for a while. You don't put any money away, and my husband, not being keen on retirement, wasn't putting any extra away. And we were looking at a very meagre retirement. We were looking at the pension. And I didn't want to retire on the pension. I had a real incentive to be looking for something that was going to help. Oh, nothing's too late. Why would you worry too late? I've got a friend who was still renovating and buying properties when she was in her late 80s. She loved it. I mean, if you love what you're doing, you keep doing it. And I knew once I retired I wasn't going to stop. I was well aware of that. One was very early in the piece I connected with John. I've done a lot of speaking, and I went to a seminar where John was speaking, and there were some things wrong with the way the room was set up. There was no light on John. There were no female speakers. There were a few things, and I wrote him a letter. And the calibre of person that John is, he wrote straight back to me. In fact, I think he rang me and said, thank you for that feedback, and I'm really going to utilise it, and would you be a speaker at my next seminar? How many businesses today do you know have lasted as long as Custodian and have the same ethics and the same person at the top who really knows what they're doing and who's willing to help anybody who asks? I mean, John is available to anyone who rings up. He's incredible. I mean, I've got friends I've mentioned that I know John, and they've said, well, you actually speak to John. It's like, yeah, we're friends, not just a mentor now, but he's still very much been a huge mentor for me early on. No, because I've always used property managers. I've took John's advice. I think people who have problems tend to not have property managers. I've always chosen really well, and if I'm not happy, I'll move very quickly. Oh, start earlier, don't wait. Start earlier, go in and start at 25. I've got my grandson just starting, and I've got 2 of my 3 sons have all got investment properties too. So I think it's a legacy you can pass on. It's a wonderful legacy. You know that they've got some things that other people haven't bothered to look at or explore at all. I mean, the number of people that say to me, oh, you're so lucky that you've got a good retirement. Isn't lucky. I got in there and I took the action, and as John said, that's why he's often asked me to speak or often asked me to talk to people, because I've actually been prepared to take the action. You can't make anything happen unless you do something. You've got to get rid of the fear and move forward and try things, and don't get out there and do silly things, but when it's tried and true. And as I say, lose that fear. Just be willing to give it a go. Find the right people. There are definitely some shysters in the industry, and I met quite a few of them along the way too. But you'll know the genuine ones when you meet them. I could tell Custodian had ethics that I agreed with, and that's important. And be prepared to listen and learn. I think you just have to keep your eye on the ball. It's what you're aiming for, and there'll be bumps up and down. Nobody ever has a life that has no bumps up and down. And you just know that the economy and other things that happen, it's always going to change, and things will always get better. And then there'll be down times, and you just have to move through them. Don't be afraid. Be afraid of them.